We get it. Distractions happen. That's why we designed the fully electric, full-sized Volvo EX90 with the latest technology to keep you and those around you safe. Its two-sensor driver understanding system is designed to prevent distractions and help you stay focused. Reserve your Volvo EX90 today. Learn more at volvocars.com/US.
Bro gang, I don't say this every week, but I should. Racism in America is very real and endemic. Thanks to you guys, though, Lawrence and I have a platform, and it is our responsibility to leverage that platform to do what is right. So after 4 years, we know that all 17 million of you, Lawrence, myself included, are always hungry to learn and be better. That being said, this will not be your typical Throwing Fits episode, aka zero bozo behavior. This week is about amplifying a necessary voice. Today, we are joined by our good homie, Patia, of Patia's Fantasy World, who has quickly become one of our go-to resources on social media in learning about this country's systemic racism, taking direct action, and spreading crucial information. Patia, welcome to the pod.
What's up?
Happy to be here.
How are you doing? How's this week been for you?
It's been crazy. I've only slept like 3 to 5 hours since Sunday. I made a post that I was just going to make a database for there's just so many Google Docs that are in everyone's bio, and I thought it would just be kind of more efficient to have it all in one without taking credit for the people who've made those. But I know for my followers, even I have that regular bail funds link in mine, and people are still so which one do I donate? People still want information that can be vetted by someone. So I got I posted a thing asking for volunteers to help, and then there's I think there's 26 sections in it that I've worked on. Some are white, one is white to white topics, and it's how to talk to your white peers and colleagues about racism. And I got that insight from a bunch of my white friends, because I don't know why everyone thinks I'm racist when I have white friends. But a lot of the information, I did make sure that it's the stuff that's for white people. I made sure that it is half of it, a lot of it, it's so much information, 26 different sheets in one Excel sheet is a lot, but it's also okay, you're going to do the work. Now this is the work. I also have a section.
Yeah. You did the vetting so that now the work can begin.
Yeah. And so I also have a section for companies in terms of reevaluating your brand statements and what your company will do to what specific actions your company is going to take. I think that needs to be a conversation, because I know, especially after the looting, a lot of brands made statements, and it's oh, now you're standing with us.
Sure.
Because a bunch of little kids just stole all your New Balances. And
so it's the comms and then the actual actions.
Yeah, and it's also babe, we know you have insurance. It's fine. I worked at American Apparel. We know we knew people were gonna steal. They I don't know. It's just so stupid. It's also half the stuff stolen was ugly. So, and also it's there was already COVID, right? So it's you're not losing more money because you were never making money with your store closed. So oh well. But yeah, so even in the list, I didn't include any. I have a section for brands that have made statements and publications, but I didn't include any that were affected by the looting and then made a statement. My friend compiled her own list of brands who did that, but I didn't know if I should include that because that's gonna. But it's also whatever. There's also a section for people directly who are Black, LGBT, etc., that you can donate to. So I think total, there's probably at least 500 direct organizations and people to donate to. So that question should be answered, and I never want to hear it again. And then there's the smaller organizations that I like personally. And then, I don't know, I guess my focus this week has just been answering every single question. And it's a bittersweet feeling, because it's I should not have to do this. And all it took was one fucking idea laying in bed. And then I was I'm not going to sleep because I need to do this. But luckily, like I had my friends like do data entry, and I like gave them documents that I just like needed copied and pasted into Excel. And then I think ID is going to help launch it tomorrow.
Oh, fire!
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and I already made like graphics to send to everyone to like post instead of like, I'm kind of anal, like I don't really like people screen capping. Like, I'm operating as a brand now.
Right. I was gonna say, for someone who doesn't like screen capping, like really?
But then it's also been, I don't know, in the beginning when I started speaking out about it, because I've had this account while things in the world have happened. And I think it was understood why I didn't really post about shit. I think everyone knew that, obviously, if you have common sense, you know it's not a Black person's responsibility. So I didn't for the longest time. But I think the thing that made me start posting about this shit is how, like I don't even think COVID or racism is going to kill us. It's just going to be stupidity. Like the amount of stupidity, I'm just like, what? You know? And like, I get it. When people think that like the leader of the Black people is Talcum X, it's just like, I have to say that.
We have a whole Sean King session. Don't worry. Patia, I have a question for you. You were talking about how you made graphics because it's important how the information is packaged. Is that not like, or tell me if I'm tripping, but all of these infographics that James is kind of talking about that are spreading like wildfire, isn't it crazy that it takes a certain level of aesthetics to get people to buy in, which is
there's
like
a few of those little slideshows, and one of my Black friends was like, I sent him one because I think someone wrote something stupid on one, and then I sent him it, and he was like, "Oh, these white people love a font," and I was like, you know, they love like lavender and cream color. Like, they'll look at that. Like,
they love kerning. They love kerning more than they care about Black lives. This is the fucking problem.
Yeah, like. But however, you put out all that other shit in just like a regular document, and people are still like, so where do I donate?
Yeah. I will say though that people, if we're talking about like screen caps that over time like get continuously like shittier, like the resolution, like that does, unfortunately, it devalues the information that is good to some people that are so concerned with the surface level. How does my grid look? You know, and I'm guilty of this probably too, you want your stories to look clean, the swipe up to be good, but it's crazy how people are focused definitely on like how these things are packaged more than what the contents are.
Right, because some of those things, like, well, I've seen some that have like 60,000 likes. And, you know, and it has the same information as maybe one that someone else posted that's just like generic Times New Roman. And I'm like, that is so crazy. Like,
well, I do think those slideshows are, I mean, the reason why they're graphically designed is because they're easy to digest and easy to consume, because it's like, here's the headline, here's slightly smaller text, here's like tertiary text if you really want to, you know, get into it. And it kind of goes back to what you're saying. Like, here is this robust ass database that has like thousands and thousands of cells of information. This can be your Bible. You know, not like Trump's fucking, you know, upside down Bible shit, but like this can be something, but just because the words are small and in, you know, Times New Roman size 10, that's no excuse. Like whatever, like, you know, you could read like a 1,000 page book and not just swipe through like a 6 thing.
Well, it's not single serving. People want single serving because it's so easy and it makes them feel good. And whereas like, all right, Patia basically now you got to go to college to unlearn everything you've learned. So you have to do it with a real database with real learnings. It's not, the hard part begins now. Like, that's what people need to get.
Yeah. And like, there's like at least 300 PDFs of books that are like well-known books and everything. There's different categories so you can sift through it. Yeah, it's very like, okay, now you do the work of clicking. Like, don't ask me which one to read first.
What section or like kind of topic within the database that you built, and we're all very stoked to read it and, you know, understand why you held it this morning, and we'll get to that. But what section of the database did you learn the most about while putting it together with, like, you know, a little help from your friends? Was it the white on white questions? Like,
not really. I mean, that one, I'm just like, if I ever hear a white person say they don't know what to say, I'm going to literally like do something crazy. I think addressing like racism in the workplace, because I saw someone post, or this like organization I'm working with, they made a post that was like, oh, like, protesting isn't just like, it's not just about like having your white body between a cop and a black person. It's like, you need to remember that you need to remember all the times you didn't do that in the workplace, or like you didn't do that in like, you know, like especially like New York City. Like I feel like people don't think they're racist because they're not being malicious. And I think that people don't realize that if you're white, like you do actually have to unpack certain biases because it is in you, especially like based on how you're raised and stuff.
Are we talking about microaggressions in the workplace to colleagues? Is that what?
I guess I made like a thing that was like, because I wasn't upset. I won't say upset because like some of this shit, I feel like we're on day 5 of this. And so in my head, I always have like a script whenever there's like a black person dying. I'm like, it's always day 5. But I'm also considerate of the fact that there is a pandemic and a lot of people are just happy to be outside. Like, you know, I wonder like how long this will last, how long it would last if like people still had work and had to like.
Or what if it was winter?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like right now is prime time to be out. Like I've seen people posting, like going to protests and then like getting wasted after. And I'm like,
really?
Oh, yeah. I've even posted on my stories.
I want to talk about that because, you know, you talk about like, mechanisms of racism that aren't super explicit. So, you know, you mentioned that you yourself have received a lot of personal racist attacks in your past. And, you know, I want to, as an educational tool for people listening, like besides explicit name calling and explicit discrimination, not what you face, but what forms of silent and implicit racism are commonly out there, but not necessarily known by people who don't face them in their day to day?
I think, let me think of situations. I think sometimes I've noticed the way people, I mean, code switch is a generally black word, but I kind of notice when people switch their tone with me versus like when they're with their white friends or like you know, like
they talk a little.
Yeah, like they'll talk like their hood or something, or like they'll like make all these rap references to me, and I'm just like, whoa.
Like they're pandering to you to seem like an ally?
Yeah. And I'm just like, I like don't care that you listen to Future too. Like, I don't care. Or like they'll pretend they watch Love and Hip Hop or something, and I'm like, I don't watch that. Like, what are we talking about? Some more microaggressions. For me, it's always been like sometimes people will be really like they'll seem really intimidated by me. Like I'm assuming from their body language, but when they like hear my voice or like if I'm just like overtly nice, it's like a shock. Like they don't know if I'm gonna be like the hood bitch or what. Like they just see black and they're like, but what kind of black girl is she? Yeah, and I think even when I've applied for jobs, like most of the things I've been interested in are things that I think every 27-year-old, you know, like in New York, it's like music, fashion, blah, blah, blah. But it's like sitting down, having an interview, and then someone like sees your resume and they're like shocked you have an education, but you see it on their face. And like they're shocked that you've had like all this experience, and you're just like, where the fuck did you think I'm not Patrick the Star. Like I don't live under a rock. Like I just don't get it. And like especially like over the past few months when I finally like started making money and like budgeting my shit right and like just kind of, you know, being able to kind of buy what the fuck I want. I think I kind of saw like a lot of my friends want to ask how, but they didn't know how, you know, like, and I've had people ask that before. Like I think one time, I bought some designer item and I think I tweeted about it being like, oh, it's my first like designer item I bought with my own money. And like one of my white friends at the time was like, oh, how? And do you have a sugar daddy? And I'm like, all day in New York City, like every fucking person like can afford or like has access to designer shit. And I'm being asked like how I made that money and like that type of shit. But a lot of it for me is like tone. And like I can tell when people are scared of like what the next thing I'll say is, especially if they know I'm like vocal about things. And I'm just like, I'm not going to like physically fight you yet.
What about just like energy, like their energy towards you, or like when you enter a room, like does it shift?
Yeah. I mean, like I used to work in art, and I remember I'd go to openings, and like I think people were safe about the things they said about me. I remember I went out after Trump got elected, and like so many people looked at me and were like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, what you sorry for? Like, that's y'all's man, not mine. Like, you know, or like, I get a lot of like, especially now, like so many white people telling me like, I'm so sorry. Like, I can only understand your pain. And I'm like, I literally ordered $50 of LaCroix, and I'm like gonna make steak tonight. like, yeah, there's a constant internal pain, but I'm living my life because
Sure.
I have to keep doing that. I'm not like crying under my bed. So I think it's also like the assumptions like that, and the whole like I apologize for the white race. I'm like,
is that a perceived weakness then? Is that what people are like assuming you to be? Do you think that's maybe based on your gender too?
I think so, because yeah, I guess that makes sense. I think it is like weakness, and I remember Angela Rye did this like interview on some talk show with some like Republican, and the Republican said something to the Black community, and she was like, I'm good. Like, I'm educated. Like, I'm popping. My community's good. Like, I'm not fucking out here, like, struggling the way you think I am.
Sure.
And then he tried to bring up, like, you know, like, Black on Black violence and stuff. And it was just like, that has nothing to do with anything.
Is that a way you think that people can refute that stereotype? Is just being like, do white people think it's, because that's the thing, right? Things are terrible, but like, where is these misconceptions? Like, where are they coming from, right?
Yeah, I'm like, where did you think, like, I don't think the police brutality means that, like, I don't think the struggles necessarily mean that every Black person in this world is, like, distraught in the way that white people perceive that distraughtness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I'm used to this stuff and I'm very desensitized from it because everyone has posted 50 videos of the protest.
Right.
I'm just like, I know what that looks like. I don't need to see it 50 times.
So this is like people blaming like the community versus like it's the system's fault, right? That they're trying to put the blame.
Yeah, like that's what it feels like, I think, through those aggressions. I'm just like, I'm good.
And I think also people, or a lot of non-Black people, their only experience with like shared pain with Black people is around like times of tragedy, and not around like the 360 Black experience, which like any other human, any other culture, there's joy, there's, you know, triumphs, there's losses. Like, it's not just tragedy. That's only when you're choosing to engage with it.
I think that's my problem with like times like now, is that it's like, yeah, but you never celebrate these things any other day. You don't appreciate Black people until they die. And it's just like, I don't know. I literally have like a schedule in my head mapped out. I'm like, I'll see. I'm not saying thank you, but I'm like, we'll see about this in a month.
Wait, Patia, based on what you just said, what do you think then about people in a time like this that amplify purposely Black joy? Is that missing the point, or is that productive?
I think it's productive. Like, what people?
Well, just like I saw some people on social media that were like, I want to use this time to amplify images of Black joy and happiness, maybe not to distract from what's happening, but to also show this other side. Is that as important right now, or is that missing the point?
I think it's necessary. I think the problem with a lot of things, it's like who it's coming from. You know, I think especially, I mean, I really only follow people I know. And so for me, I'm just like, you never were that person. So just take it down. Like, you like open your purse. Even like, like, I don't get it. But yeah, I think it definitely depends on who it's coming from. I kind of feel like, I think it's awkward when non-Black people post shit like that, because I'm just like, what did you like about this besides the fact that they're Black? Like, I don't just like everybody because they're Black, as you know about me, Virgil. Like, I don't listen to a lot of rappers just because, like, for other reasons. I'm not like, oh, I love every single Black person.
Well, today did start off with I think you called it the day 5 formula, right? Tuesday today started off with a ton of people posting a Black square on their IG feed, many of them with the hashtag Black Lives Matter, which led to, clicking on that hashtag, instead of it being a resource or a source of information, it was just like literally censored. But for anyone that may have missed your reaction to it, just what was your opinion on that?
So I was supposed to drop the database today at 10 a.m. and I set my alarm, woke up at 7. And I was like the homies are in the group chat, like the fantasy world group chat, like still sending memes. Cause like River lives in Africa and Lena lives in Detroit, but our sleep schedules are crazy. So everyone was sending memes and I was like, hold up. Like one eye open, I was like, Instagram is black. What the hell is going on? And then I saw a post that Lena posted while I was asleep. And I was like, y'all have got to be out of your damn mind. This is not, like, for me, it was selfish because I just wanted to drop this database. But then when I kept on scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and then I just kept seeing it, I was like, oh, I have to say something. And my friend Mickey Blanco made a post and had screen caps. So I just like screen capped that. And luckily, I feel like I think I'm lucky to have like a lot of prominent followers. Like Lily Rose Depp had like taken hers down and like reposted some of my stuff and was like, don't do it, and like Petra Collins and just like all these people who have platforms to like make sure it's like down. And I kind of feel like on my feed, like everyone just started deleting it throughout the day. And then I went to like my tagged and everyone, like I went from Patia's psych ward to like Patia's black house. Like I was like, wait, hold up. Like what is going on?
A lot of rebrands, a lot of moving parts right now.
Like I was like, oh no. Then I had like the people who were volunteering be like, okay, what do you want me to work on next in this Excel? And I was like, oh my God, I'm running a whole, like, how did these presidents do it? Like, I don't even have a comment. Like,
yo, real talk.
I'm working harder than the fucking White House.
For real.
Patia, like, could you ever see yourself getting into politics?
Yeah, like legit.
Not that politicians like will get us out of this or like help ever, but like, do you like? You clearly have a fucking following and like a cult following, or not cult following, but people follow you to the ends of the earth. All the homies on this Zoom included. Is politics in the future for Patia?
It's crazy. When I was little, I wanted to be a lawyer, but like I seriously did. And I remember like when I first could access a computer and they started putting like public records online, like because I was into tech shit. And so I was also into like weird FBI shit. But I remember I would like look up my parents' like divorce papers and like all the times I went to court. Like I know how to read a court document, but I wanted to be a lawyer. And then I realized like, oh, like all you have to do is know how to lie. But that's not why I wanted to be one. It's just I wanted to go ham. Like, like I don't know. It's weird. I think I would get into politics, but only because like people are fucking cheap. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, okay, like the mindset of me creating that database was literally just like, oh, I should make something because there's like 40 different links and maybe I should like tie this all together so that my followers and like whoever they share it to, it's all in one. But that was like such a simple idea. And then I also reflected on my meme account and like, you've all seen me call out certain people and even today, like some dude at Chacha Matcha. And I just kind of realized like, I don't give a fuck. Like everyone's like playing it safe and shit. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then I realized like, oh, that's because everyone's like,
you're not compromised. There's no lobbyist. You're not compromised. This is, and can we talk about politics real quick? Like, am I wrong to think that this, or what, do you think this is a political issue at all even?
No.
Exactly. Thank you.
Cause I'm just like, this shit happened with Obama. This shit happened since the beginning of time. It has always happened. Like, I don't think it's political. I don't think any politician is going to fix this. So that's not the way. I do think local voting is like obviously important because that's the beginning of it. I kind of wish that in the public school system, at least in America, like there was an emphasis on that. Like I didn't know the importance of that till probably a few years ago. Like I was just like, I'm not voting in general. But had I known the importance of voting locally, I probably would have, or I would.
Well, I want to go back to the black squares on IG. I mean, I guess the question is just like, why don't white people get it when it comes to this performative allyship on social media? Obviously, social media is only like let's just say 10, 15 years old, but still, why don't white people get it? And why do they insist on performing this theatrical spectacle of, this homie or this me type shit, solving racism meme? Why?
I think it's gonna be harsh, but I think it's simple as like they don't value Black lives if it's not about fashion, art, music, or if it's not about culture for them to appropriate.
Got it. Succinct.
Wow, that's a big one. I mean, where's the lie?
Yeah. Like, I don't understand. Like, so many people have been like, I can't find the words. I'm like, okay, I went to public school and they taught me about slavery, the basic fundamentals, and I was like, that's fucked up. So, like, I don't understand. Like, did you drop out of kindergarten? Like, what words can you not say?
What will it take for white people to understand and make the connection that reaction is literally emblematic of the inherent racism that exists with you to begin with?
I don't know. I guess we might have to open the purse for them.
Yeah. Ocean's 11 their shit.
Yeah, right?
The purse might have to open for them. Open the Goyard.
Well, in addition to kind of like, these token actions that we see people take on social media, I want to ask, from the all lives matter sentiment to, saying violence isn't the answer, there's a whole plethora of these neoliberal beliefs.
Neoliberals are like all lives matter? I didn't know that.
Well, I think there's all lives matter people on both sides, but it's the wings of the same bird. Maybe just,
Okay.
Yeah. James and I made a list of a bunch of these the other day because there's so many. Like, what is another one? Not all cops are bad, right? There's good cops. That's another one that people love to say.
Oh, yes.
Like that shit.
I think Muhammad Ali said it best in that interview. Like, if there's 1,000 rattlesnakes and 2 or 3 are good, I'm not going to keep my door open, and let all of them in. I also don't understand the logic when people are like, they're good cops. Like, okay, when I was growing up, and when they have the policeman come to your classroom because it's like someone's dad for show and tell, and they show you the gun, and you need to put that shit away, sir. Like,
sir, there are children here. Put your gun away.
But I remember being little and I was like, oh, like if I wanted to help people, like when I wanted to be a lawyer, I was like, oh, I want to help people because like my parents were in a nasty divorce and I want to stick up for women. Like that was my mindset at that age. Like there are other professions to do to help people. You can be a social worker. You can be a doctor. You could be a nurse. You could be so many other things besides a fucking cop. I also don't think there's any, like considering cops in the US came from like that slave patrol shit, like there's no it's like not ethical by any means. Like how the fuck can you be a police and like protect the law, but a lawyer has to go to law school for 7 years? Like
right.
You have to learn the law for 7 fucking years, and y'all have a country of people who go to school for 6 months, like protecting that law. Like that's crazy. I don't even think cops know law.
Is it true that you can be like a cop by doing like a webinar? I saw some tweet. I don't even know it's real or not anymore, but like, yeah,
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go to DeVry Institute of Technology, or no, Phoenix Online, University of Phoenix Online, get your badge. Right. Well, Patia,
I believe that shit.
Yeah.
Patia, what about like, so we kind of talked about how people continuously fuck up. I mean, in your opinion, how can, and this is a big question, and there's not one answer to this, but like, how can non-BIPOC folk affect impactful change?
I think people feel that it's great they're out on the streets. However, I've realized today with the Square thing, like people don't know what they're fighting for. And I think people need to read. I think people need to like, it's fine to take, I like know that a lot of people are like depending on me for information, which is why when I release this, I'm going to promote like taking the time to read, because I think for a lot of like, especially non-Black people and even people with like immigrant parents who come here, because I've gotten a lot of DMs that are like, I'm a minority, and I'm like, you're still not Black. Mm-hmm. I don't think people's like mindsets of racism is either like 1950s Martin Luther King or it's like 1996 racism in America. Like they own like their only frame of reference of racism right now is police brutality. Like that's like all they see. It's a lot of things are very centered around fuck cops, but I'm like, okay, well, like the racist interactions I've had predominantly were not around cops.
Right.
I'm saying, like, I grew up in a city that had the KKK like next to my neighborhood. That wasn't my racist experience. Like, I also don't think a lot of like maybe like white liberals realize how they're perpetuating racism because they like. I think a lot of people think like, well, I'm a nice guy. You know, there's like, I'm a nice guy and I have a diverse group of friends. But it's like, yeah, but you're not unlearning maybe what you've learned from your parents or like your grandparents. Like, and a lot of these people, I'm like, I know your grandparents was marching against Martin Luther King, so I don't want to hear it. Because I think a lot of people just don't think they're being racist. But it's like, I don't know. I think that like every white person is racist, but is complicit.
Missing the forest for the trees, this idea of systemic, misconstruing systemic racism for the individual racism that people have, like a racist joke or whatever. Like these things, like I feel like there's a lot of young people that feel like they're progressive, but you have to acknowledge the difference between these things and they're completely different.
Yeah.
I think like, you see, this is like an academic point, but like whiteness is invisible because it's so thoroughly, to use the word again, endemic to all society. Like whiteness is nothing and it chooses how to define itself and it chooses how to define itself in contrast to others at its whim, which is, so it remains fluid, but always at the top. And I think a lot of white people don't understand that whiteness is just normalcy. And to be not white, that is like the other and like the different and the abnormal.
This is why people think reverse racism is real. It's not. It can't be. Like,
oh my God, that one, I'm like, oh my God, like in the beginning, I got so much shit and like people being fucking racist. And I'm like.
If for anyone listening, if you have ever in your life, if you or your parents or anyone ever brings up reverse racism, you have to literally tell that person that they're embarrassing themselves and being a fucking bozo. That's the most insane one. It's like literally fairy tale.
Craziest because I'm just like, because oh my God, like someone was commenting my shit and they were like, you're literally being a racist. And I was like, how? And they're like, oh, because like I made a post and they like exposing someone who said some racist shit. And this white girl was like, you're giving them clout, just like take it down. Like people are like, she was just trying to talk for me. She was like, people are just always going to be negative. And I was like, I didn't ask for your fucking opinion. I didn't say that. Like I said, I didn't ask. I was like, what's wrong with spreading? Because I find it important to post those screen caps so people are aware that like people can be racist and they can be inherently racist, like even though they're young,
Sure.
Like that wasn't like the stuff I'm posting and the people I'm calling on, they're not like 80-year-old white people who like, were
Man, I mean, who knows? You're very popular.
It might be. But I'm just, but yeah. And then she was like, she said, you're disagreeing with my opinion and my advice just because I'm white. Like that means you're racist. And I was like, okay.
Do you agree that the definition of, or one definition of racism is prejudice plus power? And that's why non-white people can't be racist because they simply don't have the power. The power is monopolized by white people.
Yeah, for sure. People, when I post this stuff, they'll copy and paste like Webster's dictionary version of racism. And I'm like, you need to take, like, I don't understand. Like, why does everyone bring up the dictionary shit? And it's like, but you don't know how to read a chart. Like, you're telling me there's more black on black crime than, and I'm just like, oh, you don't know how to read statistics.
Right.
Like,
again, it's just
education.
It's knowledge that is presented in these bite-sized digestible chunks that you just choose to believe are immediately real, and you share the link and you're just like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, and you don't even read like the small text under the chart. You're just like, oh, that bar is tall.
That is a literal bar.
Yeah, bars.
I was like, what is wrong with people? I mean, this is the system of the public education system. How do I get into that sector? I'm gonna rewrite school.
I mean, is education like you've kind of become a little bit of a teacher in this past week, and not just this past week, but like throughout your rise, the rise of your star. Is public education something like an issue that you could see yourself caring about? And if not, like what are the specific causes that you're really devoting your energy towards beyond just like compiling this, robust Bible of resources?
Yeah, I guess it's fucked up to say. I mean, this Bible of resources all I'm concerned about, because I'm just like, I feel half tired, it's like I've always said these things since I was like a teenager, and it's just like I'm tired of like the echo. So I guess that's it for a minute. Like I am going to probably spend some time in my friend's penthouse and like go back to posting foreskin memes. I probably won't be sharing information unless it's vital. I've made it a point to not really share protester information and looting, because y'all know how they did them civil rights leaders dirty. Like they had the FBI was on everybody's ass. So that's like the one thing in the resource that's like not really there. They're like I'm not going to post like where a protest is.
Sure.
Because like having 100,000 followers, I just know how that's going to look. And like I'm going to look like an organizer. And that's the last thing I want. Like yesterday I got a phone call. I'm like, I don't know. I don't ever answer phone calls, but I was like scared. I was like,
wait, really?
Because I picked it up and it was just empty. And then I looked it up and it was like some satellite cable company. And I was like,
and this is what apparently happened to a lot of leaders that were in Ferguson, right? There's been like circumstances. Yeah. I'm not trying to push conspiracy theories. This whole podcast is about truth. But I think if you literally research, those people have lost their life. The circumstances are dubious.
Yeah, and even in situations that aren't this, when people like put out information that's like exposing of some sector in the government, like I don't know. I don't want to be that person. Like I have roommates, like I don't need someone coming through the window taking me, and my friend thinks I'm just at Rite Aid for 12 hours. Like I don't need that, and so. I also try to be careful and mindful of the information I post. Like last night I got a DM from someone and they were like, can you please help me? Like I'm in a city where the curfew is 8 p.m. But I feel like if you post saying let's protest, like if my city can be in the masses, we can like go against the cops. I was like, this is the feds.
Yeah.
I was like, hell no, like this. And they were like,
what's up, sister? What are the plans tonight? It's like,
they were like, I'm scared because I'm alone, but if you could organize that, I was like,
bitch, call a friend.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, you want me to tell 100,000 people and wherever the fuck you live to show up to protest?
Yeah.
And
If it walks like an op and it talks like an op, it's a fucking op.
I was like, the internet. This is a fact.
Blocked. Did you block that account?
No.
Did she? Was the account created 2 weeks ago and has like 86 followers and one post?
Oh, it was private.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Sounds like an op.
But you're definitely not an insider. You're definitely not one who incites. You are one who spreads information and knowledge. But, in addition to yourself, obviously, who are some people that you maybe want to plug or shout out or really not even that, just direct our attention to who are affecting like actual impactful progress and change that you admire and that you want people to start paying attention to?
Yeah, there's this one account. It's like NYCCT. It's like the NYC Committee for Trans Action. Their donations go to direct people. I'm assuming like anonymously. Like we don't know those people, but it's like a girl or person like doing that. And she posts really good stuff. I posted one slideshow that was like how white people can make themselves the most useful right now.
Was it just a stop sign? Was just stop.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Yeah, one of them was actually like by taking up space by writing or making posts. I was like, at the end of it, it literally says it's literally okay to just be quiet sometimes.
Right. Well, that's the thing, right? There's so much pressure to engage, to just again, signal your virtue, right? And that like, if it's pointless, if it's truly pointless and there's no information like you say, then it's not worth it. You need to be able to sleep at night knowing you did the right thing, but you don't get any praise. That's what people don't get. That's what white people don't get, right?
Yeah, I'm like, it's okay to not get like a gold star for everything. Like nothing a white person does in this scenario or world I know will be getting a gold star. Like that's just basic. Like we're fighting for basic human rights. Like should have been happening.
White people are the star of their own show. Right. This is the Karen show. We are all just guest stars. And so it's not about progressing the larger cause or towards like a more just and fair world. It's about like, what have I done that other people see, because now everyone is so visible on social media and their white bodies at the center of the narrative.
James and I have given so much money, but we're not going to say it publicly because it's not about that. We're going to tell Patia off mic, not because she's black, but because she's cool, and we just want to impress a cool person.
Period.
Who are some other folks that you want people to start following and listening to?
My friend Mickey Blanco. They're a musician, but I think they've been posting a lot of important information. And like their tone also is kind of like similar to mine. Like it's very honest. Like they were who I woke up to, and they were like, they wrote this whole thing about not participating in the blackout. I was going to be like me.
If you haven't already, if you're somehow listening and not fucking
because I was literally trying to see what to post today, and then everything was just black. And like, I don't think people were like, we're not in Instagram on 2016 when that algorithm was like in chronological order.
Right.
We will still see black boxes for the next 3 days. I mean, my feed is cleaned up, but Mars Lovejoy, she's always posting stuff, especially to help like black pregnant women.
Can I ask you about all this overlapping with Pride? Is there like, and how these things obviously no one says that they're opposed, but like if you are somebody who wants to amplify the right stories, like how can you like be equitable to both these things?
I think especially when it comes to Pride, like Pride is always really focused on like white LGBTQ. And I think now is the time to like recognize that there are black LGBTQ who actually are like, we should be remembering them even during protest, because, they're like, for like racist people and ignorant people, they are like an easy target to them, right. So that's why also in my database, I've tried to like incorporate information on that, because I think with Pride, it always gets lost in the whole, like, and I'm saying this as someone who has like a shit ton of gay friends, it's very like white gay poppers and like, ever. And it becomes this thing of just like, what party's the next party type thing. So I think now is the time to like really, especially, I think when I first started posting, like I had white gays trying to come for me. I think once, what the fuck happened? Some girl left a dumbass comment and then everyone else chimed in. And now I'm starting to realize the actual power I have, because like I'll like post something, go take a shit, come back, and there's like 40 people arguing with each other. And then I'm like, oh, whoa. Like, I'm not even breaking it up. I'm just like, I'll like someone's comment that I agree with. And they start feeling gassed and shit. But this girl posted some this girl said, I came here for the memes, like, fuck this political shit. And I was like,
it's not political.
I was like, first of all, just unfollow. Like, I don't get it. Like, and I know it's because I am the most poppin' meme account, but like literally just unfollow. Like, go somewhere else. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Your shit is too good. They'd rather stay and be mad at you because you're too good at what you're doing.
She stayed, like, maybe we were probably going back and forth for like 30 minutes, and she stayed following me. So then I blocked her because I didn't. She said some shit like, I'm going to unfollow you. And I was like, oh, another white follower gone.
Yeah.
But then she DM'd me being like, can you tell your minions to stop DMing me? And I was like, I didn't tell these people to bother you. You came, like, okay, if you see a house and the door is open. Do you just walk up in it and start cooking? It's the same shit with Instagram. Just because my shit's public, because some people were like, just make it private. I'm like, no, this is info that needs to be seen. And like, fuck that. I'm not a pussy. But I'm like, how are you going to tell me about my account? Like, I get paid.
Is that what a lot of people are doing? Are a lot of people like trying to tell you how to do your job as if you work for them? Does that happens?
At first, I think it's calmed down because I think I had to keep reminding people who runs this account. And I'm very like, you can unfollow.
Do people not know, because you're so popular and your account has, I feel like, grows sizably like all the time? Like, are there people that don't understand, like, think it's making fun of a certain culture or something? Like, think it's
That's what I wonder. That's what I wonder, because so many people
were so like, racist, by the way. If that's why you're following, like, you're the problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I had a lot of people on one post be like, well, I'm a minority. Are you saying I can't follow? And I'm like, that's not what I said. But, like, don't sit here and tell me what I'm posting relates to you. Because I'm just like, what part related? Unless it's like, because I see that even some of my, like, friends from a distance and acquaintances, I'm like, I don't know why you like that particular meme. You know, I'm very like, you're not allowed to laugh at that. Like,
yeah.
I kind of got that mentality from one of my friends, from Lena. She would see me liking people's posts, and she would send it to me and be like, what exactly did you like? And I would be like, fuck.
Yeah.
Exposed.
Like, okay, you're right.
Yeah, speaking of exposed, we talk about Sean King, Talcum X.
What do you call him? Yeah.
I hate Talcum X because I don't think anything he posts is ever productive. I think it's like, why the fuck do we have? I mean, I'm sorry. If you need to see a video of like a cop killing someone, you probably need to just like self-reflect on your, racial bias. Because like, I don't have to see that to like know what's going on. Like, I've watched enough crime shows. Like, I know what murder looks like. But that type of shit kind of pisses me off because like, it's fucked up, but it does desensitize me. Like, I look at that shit and I feel nothing. I look at a protest and I feel nothing. Like,
wait, so would you think that stuff shouldn't be amplified?
No, I think what should be like, if people don't know what's going on, then it's time to call those people out. And like, they should reflect on why they choose to ignore the things that have been happening for 400 years.
So when we're talking about Sean King, you're specifically talking about like the motivation behind why he does what he does. You don't find him.
Yeah, but also like all his finances, like them shits never go to like the organizations. Like I think DeRay wrote about his like finances, even though I know that was like out of beef because they were BFFs at one point. So we know how that goes with spilling tea on like your ex-bestie. But I also just think like, I don't know, it's very like Rachel Dolezal, but a guy.
Interesting. Is that why white people love him?
But I think so. I think people's close proximity to blackness, it's easier to trust a light-skinned black person.
Interesting.
But he's white, so
I mean, this man is just mired in controversy, right? Whether it's like his identity,
the finances,
his methods of spreading, really.
I also think he's fed, because how the fuck have you not gotten banned or locked up for half the shit you post that's quote unquote exposing? Like, if
the privilege that he gets from his proximity to woke whiteness.
I wonder, or if he's just a fucking fed.
Enough, yeah.
Tia, I want to ask you, so another instance kind of around celebrity is that's really captured your attention is Virgil Abloh and his reactions to property destruction and the donation screenshot that he posted on his IG. Can you just kind of give us a recap of your explanation towards Virgil and the recent few days of like controversy that he's been mired in?
Yeah, I never liked Virgil. I mean, I didn't like Pyrex. That shit had no influence on me or my style. It's like, even when I went back to Florida, it's not like I saw people dressing in the style that, in New York when people wear off-white and like people who've actually been influenced. I'm like, I just don't see that across the country. But so yeah, I've never liked him, and I do enjoy making fun of him because I think he's a coon. And I don't really think he does much for the Black community. And I think that was kind of evident in his post that was like, who are the leaders in modern political science? Because like, what the fuck is political science? Or modern political science? Like, you don't have to have an education to fix what's going on. Like this, like we're talking about really basic things, and when you get down to it, and I just don't think he uses a lot of common sense. And I think I was having this discussion with a friend, and I was like, oh, but like, isn't the whole flex of like the match me challenge, especially when you have power? It's like, you know, someone matches you with 50, but you're like, oh, how about this? Like,
I believe you mean like Drake donating 100 racks.
Yeah, but like even in challenges, like I think like, what was that? Like the ice water challenge. Y'all remember that? Like the ice bucket shit?
Yeah.
Like everyone just like one-upped each other because it was like, oh, these celebrities can do that.
Right.
And I had this tweet that was like, oh, just wait, he's gonna post about how much he actually donated and make it seem like it's not about the donations. But the thing that's sad is that he's the type of person, and like I understand even with me, like I used to be against this, and it's like just because you have power doesn't mean you have responsibility. But at the end of the day, there's not a lot of people who are Black and have power.
Sure.
Or are in power.
So the stakes and responsibilities are different.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, what was crazy to me is like I've always hated Virgo. I never really fucked with the shit, but I'm like, damn, even white kids were calling yo ass out. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't even just like a thing of like young Black kids. It was like everyone was like, because it was, I think, and I think that's the thing. Like when he posted that apology, and it's like whatever, but it's like you really are just like he's out of touch. And I think the excuse of like bringing up his like how he's like dark skin was like really, I think it was really ignorant and insensitive because at the end of the day, the fashion industry does like, the fashion industry praises Black men, especially when they fall into a category of like hip hop or rap. But those people are in agreement with like the white people and falling in and like being complicit into the systemic racism. Like I haven't ever heard of anyone I know, and I have a lot of friends who like do creative work, like being hit up by Virgil to do like something cool. You know, like I know people who work for Kanye, and like I know my friends who take those jobs is just for the check. But it's like I'm just confused about what he's done for the community that he keeps saying. Like, and I think the streetwear discourse that he always brings up is kind of weird because it's like, yo, like people think I'm saying streetwear as in what I think he's talking about regarding streetwear, but it's like people think streetwear is lame because of like resale culture. You know, like I have friends who like don't even. I know people who think Supreme is expensive because of resale culture, and like that shit's corny, and like that Sean shit, like. You know, it's crazy because all these people, when it's not a tongue, they're just like, yeah, fuck the cops. And it's like, oh, now you love the cops protecting your fucking store full of resold merchandise or like shit you're reselling. I think it's just all corny. And like I think if your priority is to talk about fucking material goods and you push this shit out on kids, like I guess like what Bobby Hunter said, like you push this shit out on kids, you make them think that like this is what's important. And like all these items don't really ever stick up for community. Like I'm not going to name drop some brands, but there's a lot of fucking brands who say that they're built around community, especially in New York. A lot of even brown people who run these brands, you know, fucking like, oh, buy this shirt, a portion will go to this. And it's like, why don't you just enable people to do direct action?
You mentioned that. I feel like some of the earliest criticism I saw on your page, like within the past week, was about New York streetwear brands not stepping up despite clearly using Black culture to line their pockets for years. What are your thoughts there, and how do you feel the response has been since you called people out?
Yeah, I think because it's true. It's like this isn't like a trend at this point. You know what I mean? And I think people are sick of this situation being a trend, and like. We all know, I'm sorry, like even if you at least have 3 brain cells and you took a class on economics or you just understand something about profit, you know it does not take that much money to make a t-shirt. So when you try to sell me an $80 t-shirt and tell me 20% is going to coronavirus, I'm just like, you know what? Let me go put my mask on and go feed these healthcare workers. Like that.
Right. Well, which makes an interesting question for me. So we're talking about potentially criticizing brands who have a lot of money for not giving enough. How do you relate that to people that potentially looked at Virgil's situation as like donation shaming? Like, what is the right amount that people and or corporations or people of means, like, is there math that works out, or is it kind of like, does it prove how good that person is at the end of the day?
I know. And I think in the past, like, it's always been a thing of like, oh, they only donated this. But I think it's like, no, like, these things need more money. And it's like, you know, like, I think the $50 challenge thing is bullshit. Like, there are kids on unemployment. Plus, you have the pandemic thing. So kids are like, you know, you got 17-year-olds getting probably $900 a week. And your asses don't, like, people who have jobs, power, are donating, like, I mean, even I'm going to be real. 20,000 seems like chump change to me.
Go off.
Like, he got jobs. Like, this man is well respected, and 20,000. And then, you know, I was posting all my little drags and memes, and then the New York Times article came out, and then he wrote an apology, and I was like, I called it.
Yeah.
Because I know how PR works. Like, you know, LMVH called his ass up and was like, you got to fix this. And then Ducky Thought, did you see Ducky Thought's post?
Yeah.
I don't know who sent it to her, but she was like, yeah, Virgil's trying to hit up all the streetwear brands to get him to write statements to, like, validate his blackness. It's like, you can't get nobody to validate your blackness because, like, you can be black and in streetwear. That is also, like, the essence of why streetwear exists. Like, it is for white people. So, like, and like, my friend Will was like, how did Virgil, a black man, get canceled in an era where we're supposed to hate white people? Give it up. Just, like, cut the brand. Just, like, give up the brand. But I think it's crazy because, like, I don't think anything about Off-White is good, right? Like with Chris Brown, people will still listen to Chris Brown, even though he's problematic, but they'll be like, but the music's catchy. But with Off-White, when Virgil does something stupid, it's like, damn, that dude is stupid and the clothes are still whack. like there's no, like, oh, like, he only donated this much, but I really like his, like, belts.
So what you're saying is, yes, I can separate the art from the artist because the art isn't art.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like that. But I think in terms of donation amount, like, I mean, I think it's just like, I think it's a matter of being sensible, right? Like, if you're someone who's always posting designer shit and you want to post publicly how much you know, like, if you own my designer shit and you post donating 500, I understand you think that might be the flex, but I'm going to be real, it's not. Because I just bought these Chanel sandals and them shits were 900. So I know my donation needs to be $2,000. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's one sandal. $500 just one sandal.
Yeah.
That's one sandal. Like, and so I think the donation amount, you know, it's kind of like when you tip, right? Like, I think you got to work it out. But obviously I'm speaking for people who, like, have the money to throw. Right. But I think it's like, you see young kids or just people who are, if unemployed people are donating certain amounts and you see that and you're not unemployed or, like, you're in like a good standing, you should probably just, like, take, you know, I would, like, if I was like, I'm gonna donate 500, but I saw some little kid donate 500, I'd be like, I should donate more.
Exactly.
Because also people are also, like, not even just donating, even, like, people who don't have that money, they're also, like, being proactive and, like, making kits for protesters, like, all this stuff. And so I also think, I guess, for people who are affluent, it's also important to remember, like, just because you donated that 20,000 also kind of doesn't mean anything. Because also the timing that you did it is kind of fishy.
Right.
You know,
do we put too much faith in celebrities? I feel like with COVID and this, you know, current flare up around Black Lives Matter, do we always assume that they're going to do the right thing? And have they been exposed for being just fraudulent? And it's like, yo, they don't give a fuck. Like, Kylie Jenner, the first thing Kylie Jenner tweeted about this, in the past week, was about when Forbes put out the article saying that she's not a billionaire.
Yeah.
Right. I remember that. I think that for me personally, because I did grow up, I love pop culture, and I don't keep up with it as much because I think Instagram makes it kind of, as much as it seems easy, it's kind of hard to, you keep up more with like your friends and like brands on Instagram, I feel, at least I do. I don't really depend on celebrities for that. However, I guess people get flustered when it's certain like Black celebrities. Because I think that like when they do certain things, it does kind of make all of us look bad. Like, you know, it's just like, for instance, like when Virgil's apology, like the first page is like, oh, I get scared that like I won't get a job. And it's like, when was the last time you felt like that? Like, I'm just like, when was the last time you genuinely felt like you weren't going to get a job? But I think when Black people fuck up in the media, I'm like, you know, like whatever. One day maybe I might have that type of like clout and power and I might fuck up. So I think I'm also, when I critique others, I'm mindful of like what I put out even with 100,000 followers.
So there's responsibility. There's responsibility that, okay. But
sometimes I think there's just like, I think like Virgil should just admit he's out of touch. And like his idea of what he thinks streetwear is does not exist anymore. I just found out about round 2 probably like a few weeks ago when I wanted to resell a Supreme hat and they like wouldn't take it. The store is ugly. I just, you know, I think, and I also think it's kind of ignorant to like put down people's throats like what they should be influenced by. Because we're also talking about material, like it's like fucking like, great, so you're forcing us to enjoy capitalism. Like, you know, it's not like Sean is a designer. It's not like why should I respect someone who buys shit and then resells it? There's no artistic or creative direction to it. Virgil just makes ugly shit. So, well, but also, I think
Virgil as a designer is more just like a curator, like a reseller.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I think a lot of people also blame Virgil because of like when he posted that picture of like his team.
Yeah, right.
And I think, you know, I think that's when people were just, yeah, sure, celebrities wear that shit, but it's all like celebrities in the same circle jerk.
Right.
Circle. You know, I don't know if a celebrity's asking for Off-White. We all know how stylists work. It's not like these celebrities ask for shit. They're just wearing it.
Right. Yeah, this isn't the first time. I get that's the other thing too. I think a lot of people that I saw dragging Virgil on Twitter, where like I follow just more general people versus like Instagram, like you're saying, is laser specific to my friends and brands and people in the world that we all occupy. Those people might not even be aware that this is not the first time that people have been critical of how Virgil has handled criticism around, you know, like his staff, like we're talking about. That was obviously a big thing. Elements in his runway shows or, you know, people he's worked with. So this isn't the first time for him. So anyone like, you know, any 13-year-old kid who listens, who like, you know, lost their virginity to one of Virgil Abloh's sneakers, like be aware that this is not an isolated incident necessarily.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people, like someone was showing me a screen cap of them arguing about Virgil and I'm assuming the person was Black, but they're like, he's done a lot for us. And I'm like, who is us? Like, I wouldn't look at Virgil as the community leader. Does that make sense? Like, sure.
Should he be that?
Like, I mean, he can't. I don't think he wants to. You know what I'm saying? I think that's like, if you want to be that person, what?
Should he be though? That's the question, right? Should he step up or like, do you care that he's blowing it in your eyes?
I think he should step up in the aspect that like so many young men watch him. And I think I don't want there to be in 10 years people like Virgil right now.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so obviously celebrities are just like egotistic, maniacal, you know, fuck up. Like they're just fuck ups waiting to happen. And yet we still look to them to be our leaders in terms of how to act, you know, how to act, how to be cool, how to dress, how to talk, how to look, whatever. Is that just like, are we like regular folks? Like, are we just stupid for continuing to look at them as leaders? Like, should we be how do we make like activists cool? Like people, and you know, people that actually like understand this shit, or at least have a more informed opinion. Or is that again just a fuck up on my part to assume that they had to be cool for us to like want to follow them?
I think I don't know how to make activists cool. I mean, I think a lot of people are coming up right now. Like not to brag, but I feel like I'm one of those people. Like,
you're not bragging. That's a factual statement.
Yeah, I think like over, especially even this week, or like I got 5,000 followers overnight.
I was shocked. So real quick, sorry to interrupt. I thought your followers were just going to plummet, but I was shocked to come to your page and just look at your followers like right before we hopped on. And yeah, like you were at 109K when early in the week, I think you were at, or the last time I checked, you were at like 100, or you had posted about hitting 100.
Yeah, I think, I don't know.
Personally.
Yeah, you good. I think that like, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people, at least a lot of people I make sure that my friend group are people who are very informed and stuff. And without like having that conversation, like I feel like I got lucky to have friends with common sense, including my white friends, you know, like my white friends aren't telling me they're going out and protesting because I made a post on my Finsta that was like, please don't talk to me about this, you know? And then, I've seen like my friends like repost my stuff and like, I don't know, I guess like maybe it isn't about being cool and more so about being honest. And I think that maybe translates into like, that's cool. Cause I feel like that's always been, y'all know, like when I first came on, like I'm still the same bitch. Like I'm still talking my shit. And I think people have a lot of fear, you know, people are scared to post on their grid. They're like scared to like post on their story. Like I think a lot of people are doing too much overthinking. And like, I think they're thinking too much in terms of social media. Whereas like everything I'm posting, like when I saw that Cha-Cha shit, like I was more so thinking of like an in real life scenario, you know, like right. Had we not been quarantined or whatever, I would go to Cha-Cha Matcha and be like, I want my refunds. Like I think, and my friend Salem posted a thing that was like, that, you know, Instagram is real life. That's how we're getting all of our information out in real time. And like, I think a lot of people are in denial about that. Like,
yeah, just like you would go to Cha-Cha Matcha and get your reparations in fucking matchas. Like people, like you should do what's real to you on this is what we're talking about, where it's like all about aesthetics or whatever. It's like at a certain point, even if like so much of people's reputation and social lives and professional lives and clout is wrapped up on Instagram, you need to have some type of self-awareness and wherewithal to separate that from like what is actually important and is real, right? Which is what we're talking about.
And, you know, and like I do like exposing these people because it goes to show that ignorance is everywhere and people will stand by their ignorance. Like that guy being like, I'm like my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. Like that is like apples to oranges right now. And like, if anything, then you should know better about being ignorant. Like that should be like, that's how I operate. Like I don't fucking discriminate on other races or anything because I'm like, oh, that's right. Like they went through this. Like, I mean, my parents taught me world history at a very young age and they were very well traveled. So I did have that luxury of knowing that knowledge, but it's also like, I think just being a fucking human, like you just can't relate. I think like, and that's why I've always tried to have a diverse group of friends so I could like learn perspective. And like, I think people should learn perspective, but like don't speak over it.
Yeah. Fundamentally, we're talking about human rights, right? Like that's what it is. It's not political. We're talking about morality, right? Like And I think even with like the DMs I've gotten and like people speaking over me, like, you know, even when it's like I'm frustrated at this shit and I'm always like, this bitch lived in New York, I would fight her at a party. But it's like, you know, that is a really frustrating thing when it's like, oh my God, like I see also why so many Black people do just kind of like sit back. And like, I'm not really, I don't think growing up I was much of a fighter. Like I think I was very shy and shit. And like now I feel like such a fighter and because it's just like, yo, like this shit we're talking about is not up for debate. Like not all cops are bad. It's like, yeah, the fuck they are because being like the whole system's bad.
They are the protectors of the system. They're the fucking fungus on the penis head.
Yeah.
They're the dick cheese. They're the dick cheese.
Exactly. And there's so much research on like, like for instance, like if you're in a minority neighborhood, a community of color, and you call the police, the cops are probably going to do more harm than good. Or like, I know there's so many situations of like when, there's like a domestic violence case and the cops are called, like, all it takes is like the husband being like, oh, we were just having an argument. And the cop is like, all right, have a good day. And it's like the woman's dead the next 2 hours.
Odds are that cop taking that statement beats his wife. Like,
oh, yeah, true. I'm like all the
stats, baby.
Yeah, that like they're all abusers because they're like mad they didn't reach their quota. Like,
are you a believer in defunding the police and taking those funds and putting them into social services so that you have like medical workers and I don't know, like community, like more community based, more like holistic social justice, so that yes, like there are people based in the community who might know these people, or they might know how to deal with a abusive man more so than a cop who, like, cops are tasked with being like enforcers and like mental health workers and like social service workers, like, because the funding for all those other things have been cut so much that they are both like driving tanks, but also like having to, or, allegedly like tasked with providing like mental health services to
mediating couples. It's like impossible.
Like, they just can't do that. Do you believe in defunding the police and taking money and spreading it more evenly across like community-based projects and initiatives?
Yeah, for sure. Because I also feel like, I guess that's my answer. Yeah, I think that has to happen.
All right.
I think that's the problem. There isn't money in these things.
Right. I want to ask you this, Patia, because you are. I think that you track the cycle of these things to the day. There's the event, the backlash, the event, the backlash to the backlash, the backlash to the backlash to the backlash, the sympathetic like social media maneuver, whatever. Do you think in 1 or 2 months, George Floyd, all this shit will be forgotten and there will be a new cause celebrate, a new shiny toy that is trending? Or do you think we will see true, tangible progression and change from this, whether it's 1 month from now, 1 year from now? What do you think? Is this just another flash in the pan, or is this time different?
I think, it's crazy. I was talking about this with my roommate, Andre. Last night, we were like, oh, this is it. Like, this is a revolution. And then when I woke up this morning and I went to go make waffles, we both are like, yo, people are fucking dumb. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, we're just never going to make it unless, like, it's just going to keep being a constant because there's no way. And like, part of me was like, did I tell y'all to post a black square? Yeah. I've given you all this information and you motherfuckers are on my page posting black squares. I know everything.
What's the midterm goal then? Obviously, everyone that hears this is going to engage with the database. Obviously, that's huge. But what are some other midterm goals that not that we need answers from you, but in your opinion?
I think putting more money into the Black community, like uplifting Black people. I mean, my mom was like, she's very open, but she just doesn't understand like American politics, and like she gets it, but she's not from here, so it's not ingrained in her. But she was like, well, like, how does like protest, like, damaging property, like, fuck, how does that fix things? And I was like, I mean, you can't be mad at, first of all, that's the white people looting and doing all that. And like the cops setting up the little bricks. But it's just like, you can't be mad when people are tired. Like, like Black people aren't uplifted. Like, we're constantly compared to like celebrities. Like, yo, I remember my mom, like when I was younger, I was molested and shit and I was depressed. And I remember one thing she said that pissed me the fuck off, and I had to read her and like give her a list of links. I remember she was like, yeah, but like Oprah went through all these struggles. And like, look at her. And I was like, and it wasn't from a malicious place. And I think just in general, I think that's what she did to me is what society does to Black people, right? It's like, if you're not a celebrity, if you're not dressed like one, if you're not looking like Rihanna, if you aren't like, like you're not rocking chains like Young Thug, then like you're not of value to the culture. And I think, maybe like Virgil kind of perpetuates that, it's like you're only valuable to the culture if you own certain things. Like, it's very, I think, right. Like, I think people don't realize it, but it's like Black people are constantly seen as property and like assets. You know, it's like if this Black person's cool enough, we can bring them on to our team.
What breaks this cycle? What stops that self-perpetuate, or not at this point, self-perpetuating notion?
I mean, I guess white people just got to do the research. I mean, it's like, and it's like, I didn't learn everything from school, obviously, and I didn't learn everything from like my parents when like I got into certain like leaders. You know, it's not like my dad. I don't think my dad taught me about like Assata Shakur, but like once I like read about, I think the thing about reading is that when you realize what's going on has literally been happening, like people have like autobiographies, they've written accounts, like when you read like a James Baldwin essay and you're like, this is the same shit. Like, I think that's what people don't realize is that like, this isn't different from the 60s. Like, the shit I read and like the shit, even when I was little and I would read about certain leaders, I was like, this is the same shit going on. But people stick in that mentality of like what they learned about Martin Luther King in second grade. You know, they're like, he was peaceful. And I'm like, that man went to jail 29 times, peaceful protesting. So that's out the door.
Yeah. I saw a joke. Someone was like, oh, you could tell what white people just read James Baldwin for the first time or watched If Beale Street Could Talk. But it's the same. That's the thing that maybe like some people don't get, where it's like just the exact same thing. Nothing has changed whatsoever.
The cameras the cameras have gotten better.
There you go. The resolution is higher.
Patia, as like, you know, you are our meme queen, and you're constantly plugged in. You know, so you're seeing everything that's happening online. Has there been a singular moment on the timeline, on the feed, whether it's like a video or a clip or someone like a quote that's really stuck with you, that just like is seared into your brain? And it doesn't have to be negative. I'm not saying it has to be negative. I'm not saying it has to be positive, but like, what moment has really stayed with you?
The wheelchair bitch. That shit. Like, damn, you hate people. Like, oh, and also the people protecting Target in other cities. Like, I've seen people like white people like standing in front of it. I'm like, Target got money. Like, they're taking care of their employees. Like, y'all are carrying. But my thing too is like the people who are really like property and like protecting it. I'm like, that sounds like some slavery shit. Like, white people have not grown out of the fact that you don't need to always own property. Like, they just love owning property. You know, they'll buy property in fucking like bumfuck Ohio. Makes no sense.
That happened in Brooklyn. People were defending the Target at Atlantic Avenue.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It happened. Yeah. It happened here. Fuck.
I think it was more like not targeting. It's not that they were blocking the looting of Target. They were like, "Yo, do not loot. That is not like what we're doing here."
Right. What's different?
Like, yeah.
Right. What Patia is talking about is what was Jabuki? This Target could be somebody's son, like those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm also like, Target pay like what? I mean, in New York, they're going to pay $15 an hour, but like, Target it's not Trader Joe's. Like,
I did see something, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I did see something that particular Target does like practice surveillance and security techniques before like distributing to other Targets. So like, it is like a source of pain and power to like the community right there. But like, again, people are like, will somebody think of the corporations? Yeah. Not that this is about class either, but like, don't those white people know other white people that work at Walmart and Target and like how shitty the conditions are? Like, what do you, people want to die on a racist hill so hard that they'll scrub graffiti off of a Chase bank. Like, it is
like crazy. I'm like, and I'm just like, the crazy part, it's like all these like, probably middle class, lower class people. I'm like, now how much are they paying you? Yeah. The fact that you think a corporation is community. Yeah. That's like when I saw a bunch of people calling out bigger corporations that were friends with Virgil. I was like, you need to call that man out. Like, when I go to my local Rite Aid, I don't give a damn if that Rite Aid gave money or not. Because I'm just like, it's a corporation. Like, which, according to the Supreme Court of the United States, is a person. Yeah. Yeah. People try. Oh, sorry. No, not at all. Patia, I just want to ask you this. I mean, overall, just generally speaking, have you been like,
all the disappointments of like the white people side. I want to talk about the young people because it is really interesting. Lawrence and I have been engaging with our audience, at least, and this is, what we said at the top of the episode, they're very hungry to learn more and engage and do better and figure out what they can do in a way that is like impactful, but without kind of being, bigoted or like regressive. Overall, with the young people that you've kind of seen taking action, are you impressed or more disappointed in the past week?
I'm very impressed. I think I've seen a lot from the sky is so pretty. I've seen a lot of people send me DMs, like even like young white kids, like, and the DMs seem very honest and not like, like before when people would send me memes and like try to make me laugh. Like I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, like I had no idea how I was behaving was like being complicit, or like, or they're like, oh, I didn't realize that maybe this is how it made my like black friend feel when I've made this joke. I've had people send us money. Like people have been like, when I bring up like the fact that I'm educating for free, because it is a really bittersweet feeling. Like kids will send me like $5, and I'm like, I'm sure that was probably the last, one of the $30 in their bank account, And so I am impressed. I think like that's why maybe I am accepting of taking on that responsibility, because clearly these kids aren't getting it from any other source.
Right.
And I know that based on like the way they talk to me. And yeah, so I think the young kids are like, even the kids who probably like 15 and follow me, I think they're doing a great job and they are learning. And like, that's why I'm just trying to go hard, because like, I don't want them to get distracted with whatever other media that they look at, or like, I don't want them to think that like, oh, my favorite artist or celebrity isn't really speaking, so I'm not really going to speak. Because I don't think people realize like that is the trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Right. Like Kylie Jenner is silent in, she made a post, but like, if certain celebrities are silent, like it does create this atmosphere of like the people who look up to them being like, oh, I guess I don't really have to do anything. Because if a celebrity isn't doing anything, if someone with access and the resources isn't doing anything and I have nothing, then I can't do anything. And I think that's what everyone who's a part of Patia's fantasy world is trying to change, that narrative of like the things you can do even when you don't have money.
Right. So again, Virgil, thanks for the $50. We appreciate you doing everything you can, buddy.
Right.
Speaking of young people who don't have any money, I want to turn it over to Chuck and Chef. I'm just kidding. These guys are these guys are getting paid. These guys are doing amazing things.
They donated their Patreon funds this week as well. We didn't talk about that publicly, but the whole show, all of our income, we sent to places that need it more than us. The Nationwide Bail Fund and James Black Visions Collective, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and we encourage everyone to do the same, and we're going to try to hopefully amplify some more places. We're trying to follow Patia's. She's leading by example. We're just following our celebs, man. Exactly. That's all we're doing.
But no, I think that Shaman Chuck, what are you guys, like mid-20s or some shit? I don't know. Chef, you're like 19, right? Anyway, I want to turn the mic over to them. I don't want to commit acts of violence by silencing them any longer with the mute button. 60 seconds of thirst. They're going to ask you anything, pitch you on something. Why don't we throw it to Chuck first?
So, Patia, I'm obviously like fortunate enough to work with Lawrence and James, who are, in my mind, like they align with my values and are like taking the right steps right now. But I know a lot of people my age who aren't as fortunate and are working like entry-level jobs, and they're like disappointed in their employers for not taking enough action and donating and putting their money where their mouth is. But like at the same time, like we're obviously in the middle of a pandemic, and like people can't afford to lose their jobs. Like they need to eat, they need to pay rent and stuff. So like I'm wondering like what your experience, if you've had any experience in the workplace like that, and like if you have any advice for people who are struggling with that right now, like speaking up.
Yeah, I think so much of my trajectory in my work life was quitting a lot of jobs because I was constantly, I was either like one of the 3 Black people and like maybe the only girl who was Black or the only Black person. And like, it does kind of feel like elephant in the room sometimes. Like, I would get scared even trying to call off, even though that's like such a normal thing, or like, I think my whole thing with showing up late was like, oh, I didn't want someone to be like, oh, Black people are always late, you know, and then I started making jokes about it. But I did, like, it's hard. I think it's really hard, but you know, and I've had those instances, and like one time it did backfire. Like I remember in one job I contacted HR, and then I was like, fuck, of course, like the district manager was already someone who hated me, and she was like, I can't believe you're being messy. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't. So I understand that struggle well. And I think I'm lucky now where I don't have to deal with that. But I think, I mean, obviously there's a pandemic. Okay, if we weren't in a pandemic, I would just blast that company and just like quit and find a new fucking job, but like be very vocal about it, maybe. I also think, I don't know, I made this like on this worksheet that they're like very direct questions. So I think part of me now would just ask straight up questions like, what? Like, that's so crazy if someone's going to fire you because you're like, how is our brand going to help Black people? You know, like collect that check if they fire you for that. Like,
and I meant to add, like, we've seen that happen. Like, there's people who've spoken up and like lost their jobs and are like now struggling. So like, thanks for your answer. And I think it's like important.
Yeah, I think to remember that as long as, I think that's also a situation like you just gotta, I think situations like that, it's important to even if you're white and like trying to like decipher that scenario, like I think that's perfectly fine to even ask like your Black friend, you know what I mean? To ask like someone around you, like, hey, like I don't like how maybe my boss is talking about certain people, like, I think that, I mean, I've kind of been that for a lot of my white friends when they're just like, so-and-so said something. And like, I know they're not like maliciously racist. And I'm like, nah, we gonna correct them today. Because it's like, even from like a company standpoint in this era, like they don't have the balls to like, you know, like that, if they texted something crazy, that's a check.
Yeah.
That's a check.
Get that shit in writing, Chuck.
You started to go fund. Like
I've seen, because like, listen, if you're one of these people, like your company is like posturing and they're not stepping up, like I've seen some people who maybe can't say something about their current employer, but for a lot of people, there's examples of this at like a lot of jobs they've had. I've seen people calling out past employers when that company posts their bullshit response, just like anybody else. So, you know, listen, if you think that capitalism is part of the problem, like who cares if it's a current employer or an ex-employer? Like, listen, it's happening to current employees at that place too. You can bet your ass that's just the system. So
that's a good point. Like, if you can't speak up about it, speak up about some other experience. Because I think that thing, I mean, and that's like the cool thing about social media is like it does help people feel like they can amplify their voice. You know, like I started calling people out because I saw other people do it on Twitter. You know, Twitter is a bit more savage because it's like it's text based. But it's like, I saw that and I was like, oh, anything goes. And then, yeah, you see I think as you get older and like, y'all know fashion and shit, like you just see the bag of it and you're just like, there's a lot of stupidity across the board in any industry.
I would also say, Chuck, and to anyone who is, you know, struggling with like their employer, like not taking actions or not like putting out statements and shit, like, you could offer to take on that role because a lot of it is stupidity, but a lot of it is also, I think, just apathy. And I think that you know, a lot of employers or people at the top, or fear, and a lot of people at the top are apathetic, are fearful, are stupid. So just, you know, voice it in a way that where you take on that responsibility, and then you actually you're empowered to like shape some sort of stance on it. You know, obviously you're not going to fucking say like, you know, employer Bernie 2020, but, you know, you could at least like help shape its public stance and actions.
It's not to drag it out.
Especially if you're white, right? And you have the privilege to pop off at your fucking manager that a coworker might not have to. You need to do that. So, because you're seeing the same shit, especially if that coworker comes to you and it says like, by the way, I don't know if you've seen it, but you know, and then you just...
Yeah, everyone sees it in a workplace. Yeah. Everyone sees it. And it's just like some people... But I also have a link, actually, that someone provided me with how to talk to your employer on the database. Not to keep at my database.
I'm also just going to put it out there. If you work for a corporation, it is very hard to get fired. So like, feel free to fucking.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's a nightmare.
No corporation wants to be seen as racist. So
just put the fear of God in it. Just be like, by not saying something, by not doing something, this seems kind of racist.
Yeah, corporations are not people and they have no feelings. So fucking talk your shit if you can, please, to anybody who has an opportunity to do it.
But again, Patia has the resources, so tap the fuck in. All right, 30 seconds of thirst now with Chef.
Yo, first, I just want to say thanks for coming on and sharing all this stuff, and then also for putting the worksheet together. I'm super excited to dive in. We were just talking about like corporations and shit, and obviously like all the stuff that they're doing. I work for an ad agency, and so while the agency is taking tangible steps to contribute to change, sometimes the people that we have to work in service for aren't necessarily aligned with that either. We're kind of having a lot of internal conversations right now with what to do with our clients. I'm just wondering, who do you think is kind of leading by example? We talked about that too, like the responsibility of that, whether they're brands or like small or big, or even just like any public institutions. Do you think anyone is like doing a good job right now?
My friends from Vaquera, I don't know if you'll know that brand. Mm-hmm. We're very close, and like, they're posting this shit on their grid, and like they're also providing the resources, but angling their stuff from like they're not afraid to use the word Black, and they're not afraid. I think that's the thing in the past that I haven't. This is different. It's like in the past when these things have happened, people are very like, all we want is equality. Our company is for equality, and like blah blah blah. And you're like, your brand has no equality. Or the people that are casted are not diverse. Not that that's like a clout point type thing, but I just noticed, like, even without my friends like telling me that they're posting, they were never like, is this a good statement? Like I've seen. Sorry to my friends who have been asking me this, but it's like, if you come to me asking me if your statement is good enough, you need to do a lot more reflecting on why you're writing that statement. You know what I mean? And like, I think people, I guess like, I think Vicarious is doing it the best right now. And they're also like promoting me, and they were very like helpful with like also using their platform to be like, take the squares down so like I can post this resource that doesn't get flooded, because that's what would have happened, because then today ended up being every post about taking the squares down. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I think it's important, like even with brands, like don't like, that's when I start. As we mentioned, like I'm not putting my trust in brands to be leaders, but it's like, you also have a bunch of kids watching these brands, and it's like, well, like you're too pussy to put some shit about Black Lives Matter on your grid, like, because it's like not the aesthetic. So I think a lot of brands could learn from them, and their statement was very concise and good timing. It's not like they have a store, but like I'm sure even if they would have posted that, they posted it before all the looting happened, so it wasn't like this like scheme of like sales. They're not promoting products. I think that's the one thing. The whole promoting product thing is like, oh, and I didn't answer this question before when I made the call out post about brands. Like, I noticed everyone started doing 100% profits going to the donations. I was like, wait, was that me? I was like,
Patia, this is not a normal episode of Throwing Fits. And so, we weren't going to offer up any constructive criticism, but I will say this. Why don't you offer your professional services to these brands to craft their message and their actions? Professional services, meaning you get fucking paid for your expertise.
Yeah.
Oh, period. Yeah. You're going to have to help me write my little statement on my worksheet before I publish it.
Chuck can make you a deck.
Yeah.
Yes, let's go. How to not be racist.
You could be the chief moral compass officer.
Yeah.
Google sliding to a bag.
Google sliding to a bag. Literally.
All right, Chuck, Chef, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Patia, my last question is, there's a lot of young people where this go around, it's different. This time they want to, and hopefully it's not just a instant, but it's a an ongoing effort towards a more just and equitable world. Young people especially, they want to get involved, potentially for the first time, or they want to get involved in a way that is like impactful and positive. So my question is, what is the foundational piece of advice you'd give to a young person who wants to now get involved?
I would analyze why I want to get involved, and I think you have to go deeper than the vague stuff like human rights and all lives matter. I think it can even be personal. Like, think about the one Black person in your life who maybe you kind of observed how people treated them and like how you want to change that. Because I think especially for non-Black people, like, it's really easy to become complicit because you can still go to bed without worrying about a lot.
That's privilege, right?
Yeah, it's like the privilege. And I think one thing I've noticed, and I think that has been effective with what my friends of Akira were doing, is like they were angling all their stuff towards white people and enabling conversation between white people, right? Because it's like, no matter what, like I can sit, and I've done it before. It's like you sit and you talk to a white person about race, and at some point they will be like, but don't you think, insert weird, ignorant comment that is like Trump supporter logic. Like these people don't know, like these things are like Trump supporter logic too. Like to be like, but you can't fight violence with violence. And it's like, but that's what's been happening. Like what are we doing in the Middle East? Like that's the same thing. But yeah, so I think like analyzing why you want to do it. Maybe even like getting specific, like what do you specifically want to see change? Like, if you work in fashion or art or like streetwear, like, and maybe like, because I think all this stuff kind of, you just have to start with the people around you. And I'm sure everyone who listens has a group of friends. Like, I don't think losers listen to Throwing Fits.
Facts.
Like, I'll say that. Like, I think everyone to Zig, like, is like someone who's like interested in like culture. And so in order to be interested, you have to know people to a degree, even if it's 3 people. But I think after you analyze, like talking to the people around you is important, and maybe like learning shit about your parents and like maybe their ideas and like changing those ideas. Because I think that like, even though I think the thing like is I've been posting about stuff like that, and I think white people have DM'd me still being like, but what can I do? And I'm like, that is doing something. You know what I mean? Because like if you can change a mindset, like these people who are like cops and racist and like that shit's, they've had that attitude for generations and their family has passed that on to them. Like, I don't think like, unless you're like some kid discovering like a neo-Nazi group, like most of these things are learned from within the family. But I think it's important to like talk to the people around you. And then, like I was someone who, whenever these things happened, I didn't have money to donate, but I did still feel good knowing that I was having conversation. And that I was like reposting maybe reposting info about like a person who needs money. I think sometimes it doesn't feel like people are doing enough when they repost organizations, which is why I created a list of people you can individually give money to, or like repost that they need help, but like getting that word out. Because even if you have 30 followers, like it's still fucking Instagram. I see people shit on my Explore that have 100 followers, like, and you just never know who that could reach. Like that's the power of the internet.
So it's almost like, look, if you're looking for guidance on how to get involved, it's like, get involved.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, you just do it. You just do the work. Right. You have those scary conversations. If like people, if their friends around you are like, it's like even with the Black Square, it's like when people are like, oh, it's like a social media break, like for people to stop. If you are following people who are still posting shit, the friendship's over. Like it's just done. So it's like if you have an uncomfortable conversation and it doesn't go the way you want it, yeah, sure, you can maybe provide resources and articles, but like it might be time to just change it and influence other people who are willing to listen to you.
Right. All right. That's it from us. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to plug? Any organizations or individuals that you want to take the time to shout out real quick, whether they're like a must follow or just read up on them more?
I think my friend Aaron Phillip has been posting a lot. I've been reposting their stuff. I mean, we've both been reposting from each other in like the same time frame. ID Magazine is posting a lot of like actually helpful resources. So I think that's something, if you just need like a general if you don't know where to donate or like you don't know who to help, they're posting a lot of like personal content as well.
And they'll be amplifying your resource book?
Yeah, the database.
And then,
do we have a title for that? Do we have a title for that?
What is it called?
Oh, yeah. Let me read it out loud. Because I was like, oh, that's a whole sentence. It's Welcome to the Fantasy World Master List of Resources on How to Dismantle Systemic Racism.
Gang.
Yes.
The guidebook. It's the book. Like literally, even like all my white friends who've been working on it, I've been like, there's an intro. I wrote an intro to it. So I was like, read this and then go through every slide. And everyone's just like, holy shit.
30 years from now, some 15-year-old kid that's going to read Patia's Fantasy World. Sorry, I don't even know what it is. They're going to be sworn into the White House with their hand not on the Bible, but on Patia's guide.
Put on that.
It's like the Bible, except it's nonfiction, ladies and gentlemen.
Literally. So I'm excited about that.
All right, Patia. Well, thank you for coming on.
We appreciate it. Thank you very
fits.
much, Patia.
And
thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Information.
Chef, I don't know what we're doing, but just take us out.